Genesis 2:15. And the Lord God took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to dress it and to keep it. So this week in Watercolor Moments, we come to a point in the creation story after God created the world. The scriptures tell us that he placed Adam in the Garden of Eden and to keep it and to dress it. And I've been thinking about that idea a lot. Because tending a garden isn't one big moment. It's literally small things repeated over time. Watering, pulling weeds, and paying attention. And it made me realize that so many of the things in our lives, they grow the same way. Relationships, our talents, the work that we do, even our faith. And none of them really grow passively. They grow because they're tended. But if I'm being honest, sometimes that idea starts to feel a little heavy, like everything depends on how well I take care of it. And when I forget something important, life starts to feel a little frantic. But then I realized something. Even in the Garden of Eden, Adam wasn't the one who made the plants grow. God did. Adam's role was simply to tend the garden, to show up, to care for it, to participate in what God had created. And maybe tending was never meant to mean carrying everything on our own. Maybe it was always meant to be a partnership where we bring the care and God brings the life. And that's what inspired the painting for today. A picture of what happens when tending becomes a partnership. Grab your supplies and let's get started. Hello there, friends. I am going to begin by warming up on my scripture page over here. And I like to paint with water and then add some color. That way I can still see my words. Now, if you are new here, welcome. You don't have to add the scripture to the page this way. I obviously wrote it out ahead of time and I use a waterproof marker. If you want, you can also use the printable that comes in the weekly email, and that will have a little downloadable that you could just print off and then glue that or use a little washi tape to get it in your journal. That is up to you, how much time you have, all that good stuff. And what I'm doing here is just adding a little bit of pop of color and some water. Now, if you are not new here, thanks for coming back. I really enjoy painting with all of you, and I love seeing the beautiful artwork that you share. It means a lot to me. Okay, now if you're painting and you get a big blob of color like that and it's really dark, all you have to do is add more water, and I'm kind of lifting and pushing my brush down to pick up that color, and then I can just put it somewhere else. So don't freak out if that happens. It's okay. All right, now for this painting, we are going to be doing a little bit of drawing, but I'm going to take it just step by step, and you can totally do this. I know you can. Now we've got that little watering can there. Feel free to change up the shape if you want. Also, if you're using like a square journal, you probably have a little bit more flexibility in how you draw yours, because these journals are narrower than they are, tall. Then I had to make the shape fit the paper I have. So just kind of keep that in mind and feel free to, go off script. I'm good with that. Also, you don't need my permission. So just saying, I want this journal to feel special to you and meaningful to you. All right. So in the spirit of that, I am going to just add a few little pops of that pink that I've just really been loving. I don't know if you're like me, but I just kind of get into these moods of color. I'm like, ooh, I really like that. And I cannot be stopped. So there you have it. Okay, I'm going to give this a quick dry and then we'll get into the drawing. All right, let's get to sketching. Now, like I said before, I'm really needing to consider the size of my notebook. So even from this one, this paper is the same size, but there's no binding on this paper when I do the practice, obviously. So I'm gonna have to, you know, squish it a little bit more. So I am going to probably be doing a lot of erasing. If it's helpful to you, you can look up a picture of a watering can and just kind of draw what you see. You can follow me step by step. Just know I'm gonna probably erase. So what I'm gonna go for is more on this bottom half, right? I'm gonna draw my watering can because I wanna have all of these flowers and things just coming out and a lot of movement on the top just to represent that abundance. So I'm going to just lightly sketch this watering can, this basic shape. And you'll notice that it is wider on the bottom than it is on the top. And on the bottom, I'm curving it just a bit. And then on the top, I'm curving it. And then I'm going to add an ellipse. So like a flattened oval shape on the top. Just something like that. Okay. I'll add a handle. And it's just a little C shape. Now you can like make yours all fancy if you have space to do so. I'm going to bring mine down here a little bit more. And I'm actually not even going to fill in the thickness of it because I'll use my brush to do that. This is more like the bones of the project, okay? Now here, the spout, when I was looking at pictures, they kind of tilt out more probably at this angle, but I would not have space. So I'm going to bring mine up. So I've got these slanted lines, right? Wider on the bottom, narrower on the top, and then I'm just going to add a semicircle on the top. And then that works. That does the trick. I am going to plan out some of this movement of the flowers because I think it's pretty helpful. And what I'm noticing is I've got less space on the bottom edge here, which means I have more space for flowers. So I'll probably fill it up a little bit more. But from this semicircle, I'm going to just start drawing some like wavy-ish lines. And I'm trying to have them not all necessarily go the same direction. And that just kind of helps to create that movement in the piece. So maybe this one comes like that. Kind of wish I had more space for another right here. Okay, that's going to be squished a bit. I'm trying to decide. Okay. I'm deciding it's just going to come like this, and I'll probably just add some leaves right there to fill in a little bit of that space. Maybe instead I'll just add some more offshoots to this. You can do as much or as little as you want. So basically we have, if you're following along and you have the same journal I do, I did 2 major shapes. And then I added these curved lines off of it, okay? I'm going to, I almost said delete. It's kind of like deleting. Just gonna lighten some of these lines here. Remember, you wanna make your lines as light as possible if you don't wanna be able to see them. in your finished painting. I still need to be able to see what I'm doing, and I also want you to be able to see what I'm doing. So I'll probably just stop at that point. We're going to go ahead and begin with the watering can. And then we're going to do a little bit of practice on the flowers. I just want to show you that it can be so simple. You do not need to overthink it. Okay, for the watering can, obviously you can make it whatever color you want. I made a gray color with some blue and a little bit of the Payne's gray. So if you have the same palette as me, the link is in the video description too, if you're not sure which one that is. It comes with Payne's gray and then whatever blue you want. Of course, feel free to like make it a different color. Maybe like a yellow ochre would be pretty too. But what I'm trying to do is keep, this is just my personal preference, I'm trying to keep the watering can color a little bit more muted and neutral, and trying to keep the flowers really kind of like the star of the show. So I'm just loading up that brush there. I've got a flat brush just because I think it's helpful for painting a big shape quickly. And I'm just going to literally fill it in like a coloring book. And if you want to use a round brush instead, then you should use a round brush. And we'll end up adding like additional details on here. But for now, layer 1 is just filling in the whole thing. And you notice that I went ahead and I filled in that ellipse shape. We'll come back in with more paint to create that shape, to just make that look like it's the inside. But again, for now, just painting the whole thing. And if it looks a little wonky, I kind of think it looks a little cute and charming. Okay, now when it comes to the handle, I'm literally just filling it in with my brush. Now, if you want to use a round brush for that instead, that's good too. Filling it in. And this little spot, I feel like that's tricky to use my flat brush because my flat brush is kind of bigger than that. So I'm just gonna grab a round and just fill that in. It'll be a little bit easier. Okay. Wonderful. And let's go ahead, clean my brush here. I want to show you how to make some really simple flowers. Now, if you are super comfortable with painting and you have a way that you like making flowers, then you can totally do that. I'm also going for simple because, at least for me, I actually don't have a lot of time to do extra painting in my week, and I want this to be approachable for people who also have a busy schedule. So I'm going to show you just a few simple ways that you can make flowers. One of them are my favorite. I call them blob flowers because you literally just make a blob. So it's kind of like, you know, a blob. It's not a perfect circle. You could do that. Those are cute too. But mine are just like, see, I'm just kind of moving my brush around in like little circles, and then I make like a little blob. Okay, those are these. So you can see that first layer is just that blob. Okay, and then I let it dry a bit, but while that's being worked on, I'll show you for the other one, I just do leaf shapes. And mine are never even. And I leave the center open and then I add paint in the middle afterwards. You could also do like a tulip shape if you wanted by painting kind of an oval and then adding some more ovals. They're a little bit smaller on the end there. Okay, so just think simple unless you have the time to do more. Okay. Now for these blob flowers, after I lay down the first color, while it's a little bit wet, this might be too wet, let's see. Oh, not too bad. You can just drop in a darker color in the center to make the center of those flowers, and then after it's dry, you can add like little dots or lines or things just to, you know, add more detail. But those are just some really simple ways to create those flower shapes. And again, for these ones that are kind of look like a star, you can just add a center. You could let it bleed into the petals, which this is doing right now because it's still wet, or wait for it to dry. Up to you. I'm now lightening just a few of these lines, so hopefully you can still see them. And what I'm going to do, let me put this here so you can have an example if you want to follow this composition. I'm actually going to start with these bigger flowers, the blob flowers, okay? And I also would recommend drying your watering can if it is wet. That way you don't accidentally get your hand in there. And I'm going to add like 4 or 5 of these blob flowers in the same way that I just showed you. So I'm going to make like a purpley pink color. Maybe something like that. And then I will just put them in random spots. So maybe like right here. And maybe I'll put another one that's a little smaller right by it. And I'm trying not to keep them all in the same spot. So I'll move around maybe to this area. And maybe I'll put another one like right down here. And when you have a variety of big, medium, and small in your composition, it just kind of helps guide the eye all around. And it just looks relaxing, which is what we're here for, right? Okay. Now from here, I can make my other flowers. I think the brush I have might be a little big, but I'll try it. And then if it's just not working, I can switch it out. All right. And then just on some of these ends here, I can add my little star shaped flowers. And something else I like to do is sometimes I'll just add another one that's not going off of the end of one of these. Like maybe I'll place, I feel like I need to actually show a good example of what I mean. Maybe I'll place another one like right here. And then I'll attach it later with paint. So it looks like it's coming from a stem. Okay, so don't fuss too much with these. I know it's hard not to. I get it. I understand. But, you know, it's all right if it doesn't really turn out perfectly. And just what I'm hoping that you get from this is that you're feeling more comfortable just kind of putting paint down without having to have everything completely planned. And again, I know that that is tricky, but it's good to do, right? I'm trying to see where I might be able to fit another one. Maybe right here. And you can fill it up as much or as little as you want. Also at this point, what is sometimes helpful is, actually I have to go to the blob flowers. Let me do that first. Some of these centers are probably already too dry. Let's see. Oh, nope. Yay. Okay. At this point, you can also start adding your stems, and then kind of start filling in some leaves, and then see, okay, does it look like it might need some flowers over here or there? So it's really just a process, and I want you to be able to explore that process without being stressed. All right, I'm going to turn this because this will be easier for me. And I am just going to do my best to follow these pencil lines that I did to attach to these flowers. You can also, if doing like a really thin line stresses you out, you are welcome to just grab a colored pencil. That would be fine. Why not? And just grab whatever green you feel like. Now, if you touch the stem to a flower and it's wet, it'll bleed into it. And that doesn't bother me, but it might bother you. So if it does bother you, then don't do that. Give it a little gap. Let's see. I'm trying to be strategic so I don't put my hand in the wet paint. I'll just continue on my merry little way here. Okay. I lost some of the centers on here. I'll just add them later. That's fine. Okay, and then from here, you can just start building out your shapes. Okay, see, I forgot to connect that one, but I have a different green on my brush. So, gonna just add a leaf shape. You can start building out some leaf shapes and just fill it in. So this leaf shape is quite bendy. Well, let me just show you. Maybe it'd be helpful. I can do a leaf shape that just looks like this. You could do a leaf shape that is more rounded, like that. Or the one that I did is like a lot more shoink. It's got more flow, like more movement. None of them are right or wrong or better or worse, okay? It's just whatever you want to do. So I will just start adding some of these shapes here. If you want to see that one, you can see it. And just kind of letting it kind of happen. You know, just building my painting out a little bit at a time, not having a perfect plan. Like when I painted my example, I just kind of, I'm doing it exactly how I'm showing you now. Like I just kind of was like, okay, maybe I could put a leaf here. Ooh, I had two colors on my brush, so now I got two colors in there. That's pretty. And sometimes creating like this is really beneficial because you're more likely to get into a state of play. And play, we need more play. I think we need more play. I need more play. I know that. And let's see, kind of feels like there's a little bit of empty space here. So this is what I mean. So you can problem solve spaces that you feel are a little too empty by adding another flower, by adding another leaf. I'm sorry, I realized that was like down really low. It really is up to you. And I kind of feel like, so for instance, right here, I've got like a lot of this purple going on. So now what I'll do is I'm going to just add some more of these flowers right here, just to break it up a little bit. I think probably fit another one right here. Okay. Now I have this weird line, right? And you're probably wondering, well, what are you going to do with that? I don't know yet. I think maybe I'll make it a leaf, and then maybe I'll have this kind of connect here, and maybe this one's just kind of floating, and that's all right too. Because all of these, like the different flowers, wouldn't all connect to the same stem, so it's not realistic anyways. So you can do a few floating ones just to fill in the space as well. Yeah, I'm liking this. And just notice how I'm making sure that the leaves are all kind of pointing in different directions. That just helps, again, with the movement of the piece there. You don't have to do it. It's just something that I can name for you in case you're wondering, like, how come I want to make mine look kind of like that, but I'm not really sure what I'm reacting to. Sometimes it's helpful if I can name that. Okay, that's looking fun. I'm going to go back in with some of this darker paint. I think I grabbed way too much water. I did, because there was a big puddle. Grabbing some more paint just to darken a few of these centers that lost it. And now I'll go back to my watering can. And I'll grab that gray, that blue gray. I will add a little bit more gray, just to get something a bit darker. And again, my watering can is all dry, and I'm going to paint in an ellipse shape. I'm leaving a little lip on the very top, and I'm leaving some of that edge on the sides here. And I'll just add a little shadow to the inside, like that. And something else that I like to do is add a few lines, but I'm not outlining everything, okay? So I'm going to add a few lines here, just so it kind of helps show that there's a handle, and then here's like the main part of the can. I'll add a line here, kind of like a little shadow, and one right there. And I can also add a little ellipse right here. And this other part is, you know, totally optional, but it's kind of fun to add a few little lines on the watering can for texture. So I'm going to just do a few lines, and whoa, that was not straight. That's okay. If yours are not straight, it's fine. Sometimes we need to get into a groove. And sometimes those like little wonky lines are just so cute. Add a little bit of a shadow underneath. I'll add a few lines coming up here. Maybe a few right here. Again, totally optional, or you could add like a cute little design on it. It's up to you. A few little finishing touches, and then we're all done. I'm going to add some yellow centers to these flowers here. You could also do this last bit with colored pencil. This is really wet, so nothing's really going to happen there. And if you want to do a few extra details, you can totally add a few lines for the veins on your leaves. You can add a few dots in the center of your flowers. You could grab your gel pens if you want to do that. I'm going to go ahead and end mine right here, but I hope you enjoyed this one, friends. As you finish this painting today, take a moment to pause. A gardener doesn't force the flowers to bloom. The gardener simply shows up. They water. They care for what's been given, and the rest comes from God. Maybe that's the quiet reminder in this verse. We were never meant to carry everything on our own. Instead, we're invited into a partnership where we bring our small acts of care and trust God with the growth. Thank you so much for joining me, friends. I'll see you next time.